Senate will be in order. Everyone please be seated. Order, please. Thank you. For the purposes of announcements, does any individual seek recognition? All right. Seeing none, the Associate Speaker will record the starting roll call.
Senator Shrafi. Senator Shrafi. Here. Senator Shrafi present. Senator Baker. Baker absent. Senator Belair. Here. Senator Belair present. Senator Breen. Here. Senator Breen present. Senator Calvo. Here. Senator Calvo present. Senator Durigi. Chair Dami. Chair Dami absent. Senator Ding. Senator Ding present. Senator Faciso. Senator Faciso absent. Senator Haycock. Senator Haycock present. Senator Edicule Espinal. Senator Edicule Espinal absent. Senator Hirondani. Here. Senator Hirondani present. Chair Hood. Chair Hood present. Senator Huang. Senator Huang present. Senator Conan. Senator Conan present. Senator Keel. Present. Senator Keel present. Senator Chair Kim. Here. Chair Kim present. Senator Cohison. Senator Cohison absent. Senator Mari. Senator Mari absent. Senator Chair Mello. Chair Mello present. Senator Morales-Aquino. Senator Morales-Aquino present. Senator Nalivo. Senator Nalivo absent. Senator Ng. Senator Ng present. Chair Nguyen. Chair Nguyen absent. Chair Nika. Chair Nika present. Senator Rahi Patel. Here. Senator Rahi Patel present. Senator Reeb. Senator Reeb present. Senator Rogers. Here. Senator Rogers present. Senator Saini. Yeah. Senator Saini present. Senator Schuette. Senator Schuette is here. Senator Siegel. Senator Siegel absent. Senator Sun. Here. Senator Sun present. Senator Chair Swirsky. Chair Swirsky present. Senator Taki. Senator Taki absent. Senator Tajwani. Senator Tajwani present. Senator Tick. Here. Senator Tick present. Senator Torngrip. Here. Senator Torngrip present. Chair Trong. Here. Chair Trong present. Senator Valaka. Senator Valaka absent. Senator Valencia Gallego. Here. Senator Valencia Gallego present. Senator Vender Wilson. Here. Senator Vender Wilson present. Senator Walker Hoover. Senator Walker Hoover absent. Senator Wu. Senator Wu present. Senator Golu. Golu present. With 34 voting members, a quorum is present.
Thank you. The minutes from the last Senate meeting were sent out 48 hours prior. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved without objection. Does there exist a reason to call into session the Committee of the Whole? Yes. The Senate will stand in recess and the Committee of the Whole shall be in session pursuant to Title II, Chapter 31, Section 9, subsections 1 and 5. When the Committee of the Whole is called into session, parliamentary procedure is suspended and the Senate may not take any official votes or actions. All right. Attorney General Mullins and Deputy Attorney General Beltrami, do you guys want to go first?
Hello, everyone. I am Deputy Attorney Beltrami, for those of you who don't know me.
I'm Attorney General Mullins. I think you all know me.
This is part of my new yearly tradition of sharing out our conduct advising statistics to the whole Senate in an effort to foster a little more transparency between our office and the rest of you guys. So, what do we do? Those of you who are in the office see us all the time in there. We are in there 9 to 5. We schedule meetings with students. We go with them over to Whitmore for their administrative meetings. We help them prepare in many, many ways. 90% of the time, what you see us doing is sending 5 million emails.
Yes, we also do academic advising, very important thing to note. We're hoping to expand that operation, but we already do it. We are trained up, we are ready to help. So If you or anyone you know have an academic integrity case, please let us know.
All right, so here's a bit of a comparison from last year. Those of you who were here last year might remember these, probably don't. It's a lot of numbers. General trend that we've seen, though, is since we started our advertising campaign with posters around the student union and the TV ads, we've actually seen an increase in the amount of cases that we've been able to take on. And with those cases, they've also become a little more complex, actually. We've been seeing cases that have started having 3, even 4 charges on them, violations on them. And additionally, we've been tracking our walk-in meetings. Part of our office is that we accept walk-ins. It's why we have people there 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's one of the, I'll say, more special things about our office is that people can just walk in without needing a meeting and get that sort of help that they need. And
the walk-ins are especially important, I think, just because people will come in last minute having just realized that we exist right before their meeting and they need advice immediately. So I think it's very important that we maintain that 9 to 5 every weekday staffing to enable that service. And I also want to note that the increase in the number of violations per case drastically increases the complexity of the case and how much work we have to do to help the student get through that case. So while it may only be a 30% increase in the number of violations per case, that is a larger than 30% increase in the amount of time spent on each case.
so we have a little comparison here. Owen met with Dean Connery over at the Student Conduct and Community Standards Office. He got some numbers from him. We figured we'd compare them, show them to you guys. The number you're going to see there on the right is the number of cases that they've had this year that has those violations on them. On the left, you'll see the amount that we've dealt with. Particularly one they might notice is self-safety. We apparently deal with a lot of the students who wind up with that, which I love. I think that's great. I'm glad that students are coming to us with those sort of cases. But these are the top 7 that our office has seen this year. It's, in my opinion, to be expected at a university of this size. But you have anything you want to say?
But yeah, so we're hoping to increase outreach on different areas based on what we can see and how many of the cases of each type we have covered. One thing that we noted in our discussions was that underage alcohol misconduct has a much lower coverage rate than self-safety. Underage alcohol misconduct is more likely to be underclassmen, whereas self-safety is more likely to be upperclassmen. So we're hoping to increase outreach, especially to underclassmen, with this in mind.
Just to clarify, in case any of you are curious what the difference is, self-safety, if you are over 21, is what you will likely wind up getting instead of underage alcohol misconduct, because self-safety is you being unable to care for your own safety due to a use of substances. This is for those of you who like to visualize things a little more. As you can see, big old pie here. Biggest slice, obviously, is underage alcohol misconduct, closely followed by residence hall policies regarding noise and self-safety. So what is next for our office? We have 3 big things really we're working on. Number 1 on our priority is getting Title IX training. We do deal with harassment cases and other things that involve Title IX. We have limited training on at the moment. Mostly it's me and Owen who have that training, so we wind up having to deal with those cases. We're trying to expand that for our advisors next year. Some of you also know about this, but Owen and I have been working with Emma Rarich over in the Academic Integrity Office, and we've been working on getting some more academic integrity advising going there. We've done training with her this semester. We'll do it again next semester. And so we've been helping out a few students with that, but we're starting to do a hard launch on our campaign for advertising with that in the fall. And then finally, we're just trying to keep track of more metrics, so more ways that we can share out with you what we've been dealing with. Thank you. If any of you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to me, Owen. My email's up there. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Chair Tron, if you guys, 1 second.
Not really a question. Could we get the presentation shared access for everyone?
Yes, I can send a link out.
The one in supplemental doesn't work? Okay. Any other questions? All right, perfect. Thank you, guys. Next up, Chair Hood, Vice Chair Ashrafi. If you guys wanted to give your presentation next.
Hi, everybody. So UROC is by law mandated to give a presentation once a year on the state of kind of RSOs. This year it's taking the form of a presentation on the feedback survey that we did this year for all RSOs. We sent it out over email, we put flyers up, and we got a decent amount of responses. But Faria took the lead here on making the presentation. She is my vice chair, and she will most likely, pending your confirmation, be the next chair of UROC. So yeah, Faria, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, hi guys. For those who don't know me, I'm Faria. I'm the vice chair of UROC. So this is what our survey looked like. The purpose of the survey was basically to like hear from RSOs and like their experiences and just like how their support system is. So this was in the form of a Google form. It had a bunch of questions where you could like rate your experiences like based on from 1 to 5 and a bunch of like open response questions to just write down your feedback. So this is like a summary of our like numbers. We got 64 responses in total, over 8 councils. The overall experience, this is not just SGA related. This is like everything like source, SACL. It was 3.2 out of 5 and 2.8 out of 5 for overall support. And we're going to explain like where those numbers came from. All right, it's just like a quick like graph of like all the councils that were presented. It was mostly academic and cultural, and the other ones just like, as you can see, less numbers. All right, so this is kind of a big picture of where RSOs struggle most. The good part of it was that SGA and SGA related things were like not as bad. Most of the things were finance policies and just like policies in general. Some issues with booking spaces and just like event purchases in general. But SGA policies and just source policies were pretty good, I would say. And the rest of the things come after that. Do you want to add anything here?
Let's see. So a lot of these things, there are notable changes coming to, which we will talk about a little bit later in the presentation. I will say SGA policies being lower on here is likely due to the fact that they don't interact with SGA policies as much as they do with source and SACL policies. So there's a little bit of a bias there, as in they just don't even know what our policies are, so they're not affected by them as much. Therefore, they probably are less angry about them. Something to keep in mind. But
Okay, yeah. So this is a summary of the support system. There was pretty good satisfaction with Club Expo and just like source advising system. There were some issues with constitution clarity and just like overall registry support, which will explain how we're trying to like address those issues. A lot of the RSOs were confused on like how to find like clear guidelines about RSOs. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, also like a big part, as we said before, was policies. A very big problem with the policies is that like we really cannot expect people to actually like sit down and read like on like tens and like maybe even hundreds of pages on just policies. I actually took the time to look over the handbook for SORG policies, and it's like 60 plus something, and it's just like we can not really expect people to actually like sit down again and like read over those 60 pages when they have literally everything else to deal with, like, you know, academics and like actually making their club function. So I think we should probably try to make these policies more clear by actually like making them easily accessible instead of making it, you know, just a bunch of text for people to read, especially because a lot of our policies are written almost like nobody expected them to actually be like read. Like, I feel like a lot of people that have looked over the bylaws or like university policies have realized that they are very, very wordy, which makes it a great problem.
Yeah, so here are some key summaries from the feedback, and this includes the open responses. So these were kind of just like some general themes. Some notable ones is, I mean, some of these refer to the source, which isn't really as relevant to us. Obviously, they're pretty overworked there. They have a small team for a high number of RSOs, so got to be understanding for that. But, we can always improve. Funding confusion, unclear budget guidelines. I think that was probably due to the fact that there was reforms going on this year. So I think this happened kind of mid-year when those reforms were still unclear and a lot of RSOs didn't know what they were going to be, unless Darren wants to make a point of clarification. But I think hopefully those guidelines are a lot more clear now than they were when the survey was sent out. Campus Pulse issues, something notable. Everyone hates Campus Pulse, including everyone, including admin. The news is that Campus Pulse is going away in the next couple of years. Probably not next year, but maybe the year after that. We will be getting a new website, which hopefully will give us more flexibility on everything. I mean, it's a very outdated website. The company actually went bankrupt, I'm told, and the UI is terrible. So good news coming. Then I just wish it was happening next year, but I don't think it is. And then lack of transparency. People still kind of have issues understanding what the SGA actually does. And when things are happening. So that's always an ongoing process to increase transparency.
So these are the things that we've started or like planning to do for improvement, just like to address those issues. So first of all, it's the RSO resource sheet. All of us, including Ben, we've been working on it. We're trying to like make a document and it's easy to navigate and just like includes all the guidelines that RSOs like need to access in just like one document, so it's like easier to navigate and just like everything in just one place. And then there's an ESO handbook. If you want to talk about it more, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, as I said before, I actually had the time to like look over the handbook. So I pretty much like started making a review for the handbook, which is basically just like a summarized version that is much more concise in order to like let people actually know what the policies are without making them sit through like, hours of just reading over text.
Yeah, and so that's a bit of an ongoing process. So UROC next year will work on consolidating that. The handbook review will likely be inside the RSO resource sheet. And that will also include things like how RSOs should update their constitution, how often they should be doing it, and obviously the constitution requirements, because those can sometimes, they're linked in Campus Pulse, but they can be a little bit hard to find. Some other things that we'll be working on, reopening academic space. This would be a pilot program for next year. So a lot of academic spaces have been closed down due to RSOs misusing the spaces, such as leaving the chairs in disarray or leaving food in the classrooms, which is not allowed in the first place to have food in there. So, we can't guarantee that we'll make this happen because at the end of the day, it's up to the academic deans on who gets to use their space. But the hope is to bring a proposal to the deans of HFA and maybe Eisenberg on, why they should reopen their academic spaces for us. And this would include some new safeguards on how we would hold RSOs accountable should they abuse that space, basically making deans feel more comfortable letting their spaces be used. And hopefully we can make some good headway on that next year, because a large amount of feedback we received was lack of space availability. And that's something we hear from the source a lot as well, that RSOs have big issues trying to get meeting space as well as event space. Also, of course, we made the Title VII changes that addressed a lot of things, such as the sustainability of bringing in new RSOs. So if we want to bring in new groups, we're going to have to basically restrict how they operate because there is a limited amount of space. So you guys already know about that. And then lockers project, that's pretty much just ongoing work on making the locker application, basically just make them happen next year, actually. Do you want to talk about this?
Yes. So a lot of the feedback included just like better communication between SGA and the RSOs. So we were thinking of like making a newsletter that just like updates the RSOs like regularly, like by email, to like the new things that are going on, especially with the new bylaws. So these are some like quotes that we got from the survey that like the RSOs just like type it in. It's like, yeah, we need like better guidelines. That's why we're working on the resource sheet. They need better communication, so that's why we're working on the newsletter and a bunch of like advising / booking issues that it had. And this is just like a quick slide. RSOs just like preferred like email. We've been communicating with emails with them, and this is how they just prefer it. A lot of say that they would like to get like bi-weekly emails to just like a quick update on what SGA is doing and what UROC is doing. Yeah, that's it. If you guys have any questions.
Are there any questions? Chair Trong, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the newsletter and the funding confusion in terms of like getting RSO outreach. I think we talked briefly before Senate. You guys have about, I think, 60 responses. If there's any like sort of feedback you guys can give, because I've sent out 2 relays for feedback for literally any sort of policies, whether that be SACO, Source, SGA, EHS, and we've gotten 17 responses. Obviously, the process is not perfect, but we're trying to improve that, and assistance with that would be much appreciated. And then point of clarification, which, you know, we have had this year 9+ campus relays sent out to RSOs. And there's a centralized financial information document as of December 1st has been linked on Campus Pulse for everyone to view with all the funding information. And additionally, any RSO requested over 15K was emailed personally in regards to the updated funding process.
Thank you. Did you need the question part repeated or?
So yeah, so we got a lot of response that we got. We actually basically asked the source to share it with the RSOs. I think that was a big part of it. And there was a lot of parts about like unclear guidelines in terms of like finances. So yeah.
Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
Thank you guys for the presentation. But I did want to second what Chair Trong was saying, because as a student who runs an RSO, we face a numerous amount of difficulties and challenges from financial to the organizing part. And so I was just wondering, how can this committee, because I think you guys are the most important committee here, because we have 300+ student groups. How can we work in a more efficient manner, going forward in the future? Like, you guys have any ideas about that? Maybe doubling the size of the committee, or just anything that could help us, because you guys have a very important job, and I just feel like we're failing to meet the moment. So how can we improve the efficiency?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Something that I found this year was that UROC got weighed down a lot with busy work. So in the fall, that was in the form of the RSO application process, which requires like several rounds of us giving feedback to RSO constitutions, holding meetings with every RSO to give them feedback on it. And senators, we can only require them to have a couple hours of work per week because they're not really paid. And this is also, it's pretty boring work. So I would say that took up a lot of our time, which was very unfortunate. And in the spring, it was actually a similar process with the constitution audit process, where we had to go through 4, even 5 rounds of giving RSOs feedback, because they would just like resubmit the same document after we give them feedback or whatever. Understandable, they have better things to do than revise their constitution. So it's a very arduous process. So my one solution is that in the spring, UROC will no longer be subject to that process. That was in the bylaws because I struck it out. So the executive branch now has the ability to take care of that with 2 paid clerks in the registry department. So hopefully that will free up UROC to work on a lot more projects. And then as for the fall, it will now be RSG applications. I think there will be more flexibility for the timeline and for the process, because it is now more going to be in guidelines as opposed to bylaws. So we can hopefully make it in a manner which is less work intensive to UROC, which can then open them up to further, more time to work on projects. But I don't know if Faria wants to talk about, do you want to talk about how you plan on?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of the issues came from like things being like policy overload and just like being unclear. So once that is clear, that's gonna make things much easier for RSOs and us. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Senator Wu, you're recognized.
For the newsletter, is it just like a general SGA newsletter, or will it be specifically on like UROC and any changes that are being made in the committee?
So you might be, I don't know who the expert is on this. There is generally an SGA newsletter sent out, right? I'm not familiar. I think if that is the case, I think maybe on a monthly basis, that it could just be that UROC and the director of the registry collaborates with Outreach on putting registry information in there. But it could also take the form of a separate newsletter if we think that we need more frequent updates, or if one newsletter is just too long for RSOs to read. So I think we'd have to see on that because I'm not sure if the newsletter was happening this year. But yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends on the situation.
Senator Tick, you're recognized.
Hi. Thank you first and foremost so much for the work you do. I know that it is very labor intensive and you usually do not get a lot of thanks. I was just wondering, as someone who knows a lot of club leaders, who might I want to direct them to if they have issues with like reviews or submitting documents to UROC?
If they have issues, can you explain a little bit more?
Well, usually they're somewhat vague with their issues, but just issues communicating mostly with UROC and getting information. I mean, the newsletter sounds like a great idea, but how is there a person or what would be the best way to direct them?
Yeah, if they're looking for any questions related to UROC, they should email the chair of UROC, which next year would be Faria. I don't think RSO ever had their email not answered by me this year. So if they email, they will get an answer. We're by law mandated to respond within 3 days. And I believe we generally stay true to that. So I would say, email the UROC chair if they have any questions. They should get answered. And if they're not getting answered, then that's out of bylaw compliance for us, or at least our contract with the speaker. So then also the director of the registry also can be another point person, but definitely chair of UROC if it's constitution related.
Are there any further questions? Senator Vender Wilson, you're recognized.
Hi, an RSO that I'm a part of has had issues sometimes like where they'll like register a room and it's locked. This has been a recent issue in Bartlett. I don't know if there's someone you would direct me. I don't know if, well, I guess two parts to this question. You had mentioned like certain groups like not being allowed in certain spaces, if I am understanding correctly, because they would leave the space not clean. I'm wondering if that's if you know if that's communicated somehow to organizations, or like just generally if there are issues with a specific RSO where they're like then not allowed to use a room or whatever. I don't know if that's something you know about.
Yeah, so I will say the source, at least from what I've heard from them, makes their policies very clear on the use of space. And then they have clear guidelines on what the punishment might be a harsh word, but the consequences of misusing that space. They have a point system, I believe. So if the space is left in a certain way, the group might get a warning, or they might get a certain amount of points. So I believe they are contacted directly by the source when they do have a violation. I will say, I don't think it is specific groups being banned from specific rooms as far as I'm aware of. Maybe that happens in some instances, but I believe in general, it's just buildings have been shut down completely from RSOs because past misuse. And I think it's been like that for a while. So it's not like just like a couple RSOs are banned from one building. It's that buildings are shut down completely.
Do you know if Bartlett would be included in that? Because this is the building that we've had issues in, is like we'll register a room and many of the rooms are just locked. So I don't know if this is like a later question, but
Yeah, we could discuss this another time. I'm not sure specifically if Bartlett has, but I would assume if it was, then it would not be able to be registered. And I'm assuming that's through Thomas Shea, who is he does all the space booking. I would hope he wasn't booking that space for you if the buildings are open, because he has to communicate with the registrar on that, who would be aware of whether it's open or not. So that's an interesting situation, though, and we can talk further. But after next week, that'll go to Faria, not me. So.
Any further questions? Senator Breen, you're recognized.
I was wondering, like, I know there's a big change coming for club sports, and like, as a member of a club sport, I was kind of wondering, like, what is your guys' involvement gonna be with club sports, like, moving on to next year?
Yeah, so I don't know if there's an expert on the MOU that we have with them. Michael is an expert. I believe we're kind of in a period of transition right now where they're slowly moving over. Michael, do you want to?
Yes. So I can touch a little bit on that. We have a memorandum of understanding with Recwell where we give the money around $400,000 a year to Recwell, and then they are in charge of dispersing it to the Club Sports Council based on criteria of their own. So they follow a different funding model than any other RSO, but that's because instead of being administered by the source, they're being administered by Club Sports instead. And this year was us in that transitional phase, and as of next year, we are out of the transitional phase, and it's just happening. So instead of having a source advisor, they have a club sports advisor. And with that comes a lot of things we actually talked about an hour ago at the Recwell Advisory Board, which includes spaces that are only available to them and funding guidelines that are only available to them because they need things like coaches and have national delegations. So in terms of SGA involvement, we've given a lot of that responsibility to Recwell, and that's just because they have the resources to deal with it, including, JD, correct me if I'm wrong, hiring a literal club sports advisor, like a full-time staff member for it. Does that help?
Second one.
Yes.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And then our final presentation for Committee of the Whole is a presentation by Chair Trong on the S1, which we will vote on immediately afterwards.
All right, it's time for the S1. Okay, let's go. Okay, brief table of contents. What is the SATF? Brief history. That's not updated. All right, next slide. All right, what is the SATF? So a lot of this is the same from the fall, but basically it's a mandatory fee every undergraduate student here at UMass pays. It goes into the Student Activities Trust Fund, which is administered through the student government, through the Ways and Means Committee. For next year, just beginning July 1st, it will be $395, with $100 being earmarked towards the student union renovations, which we are paying off until 2040, and then $295 being up for allocations for all student organizations known as ESOs. So the ESOs includes agencies such as SLSO, UMass EMS, The Source. It includes RSOs, and it will include RSGs, the newly created student category. Title VI, you guys are very familiar with that because that's gone through Senate and it's also on the Senate agenda. That's detailing how we allocate money out to all the ESOs. Fee money is anything that comes from the Student Activities Trust Fund fee, and then revenue is anything that's outside, such as grants, fundraising, etc. FY26, that is the fiscal year we are currently in, and the S1 is budgeting for FY27, which begins July 1st of this year and goes all the way up to the next year, July 1st. Okay, so you guys have seen this graph before. So brief history of fee increase. FY 2019 is when we increased it by $100 for the student union renovations, and then we increased it again in 23, 26, and then 27. This is just a very brief rundown here of the FY25 allocations here, in case you guys have any questions from the past 2 years. If you need any additional information, please see me after Senate. I have all the financial data on that. Next slide. This is the amount of allocations for this year. And then this is the allocation for next year. Okay, so how much money are we bringing in? We are projected to bring in about 8.3 million next year. And then after student union paying that off, which is 2.1 million, which is flat for every year until 2040, we'll have about 6.2 million to allocate out to all student organizations. So where is this all going? So here are a breakdown SATF salaries. These are mandatory salaries that, again, we have to pay. We can't just decide not to pay them one year. And so we have our SLSO salaries. We have our other salaries for SEPA, EMS, and CSB, which are, again, one of the 12 agencies, respectively. We have computer tech support. This is, generally speaking, just IT support that we pay for admin. We have the SATF financial advisor, which is Michelle. She has a cubicle downstairs. If you haven't met her yet, lovely person, you should go say hi. And then the SATF salaries for student bridges, which is, again, another agency. And then the percentage of the total revenue is on the right-hand side. So continuing, and so for the agency fund for next year, and this was the sum of all the agencies, all of their operating budgets combined, that is about $948,000, up from $700,000 last year. The ad hoc fund, which is typically the RSO funding, so this is how we allocate for RSOs, is increasing from 1.37 million last year up to 1.77 million for next year. So that's about a $400,000 increase, which is lovely for RSOs. We have our RECWEL MOU, which President Borowski previously mentioned. We are mandated to fund that at $400,000. Then we have the SGA budget, which we passed a couple of weeks ago at the specified amount. We have Spring Concert, which was voted on about a week or two by Ways and Means Committee at $250,000. And then we have the DIA fund, which is being increased from $100,000 this year to $155,000 next year. And then we have what is previously known as the RSO Emergency and Startup Fund, which is now being rebranded as the RSO Emergency and Travel Fund to better support RSOs, as the finance subcommittee can generally speaking meet more often to better suit those travel requests, which are very time pertinent. And that's being increased from $5,000 this year because of the cuts from last year up to $155,000 for next year. And then we're establishing a new separate emergency fund for agencies at $75,000. And then we have our copyright, which is mandatory long-term reserves. We're allocating $140,000. Right now we have about $260,000, so that will put us at about $400,000. And that's like a pretty safe number in terms of if anything unexpected comes up. And then we have administrative overhead, which is $481,000, and then a second administrative overhead, which I'll talk about in a second, at $100,000. So we always get questions about administrative overhead. It is a mandatory cost. It is a, quote, charge to revenue operations for central campus administrative costs. So this is in accordance with the trustee policy, which states that the university trust fund shall be required to be self-supporting. In order to be considered self-supporting, a trust fund must bear an allocable share of the direct and indirect costs of central services provided university-wide and by the campuses. So that's a mandatory fee we have to pay. The second administrative overhead relates to RSO revenue expenditures. So basically, if you guys are in an RSO, whenever you guys are like moving money around from your revenue account, there's a fee associated with that. And so we, the SGA, have been covering that so that way RSOs can fully use all of the revenue money that they generate. So ending balance. If you guys were doing math on the S1, you would notice that we have about $105,000 that are not being allocated, which is about 1.7% of the total SATF for next year. What does this mean and why do we have it? Basically, the reason we have this is because the SATF is based off enrollment. So if there are any sort of enrollment fluctuations, we need to have that leeway to account for that so that we're not over allocating. It's also because any sort of agency or RSOs, when they go into the negatives, in theory, they would probably be audited and suspended afterwards potentially. But the SGA is still legally required to cover all those negative expenses. And that's why we have to account for that as well as other unexpected costs. And then again, I really want to stress this, that this is surplus projected, not final. So the number is subject to change. What I can say is that we're ending in the green, but this is a surplus projected, not final. Make sure that's in the minutes, please. So we're projected to roll back potentially between $300,000 up to $400,000. And so why? One of the reasons is likely due to high budget cuts from RSOs being unable to host events. So for example, if we allocate $10,000 for an RSO to hold an event, but then after the cuts, they only get $5,000. They may not be able to use the rest of that $5,000 because they don't have enough money. And so on the spreadsheets, that would count as unutilized and that would roll over at the end of the year. Another reason is because, for example, SLSO, they have positions that are budgeted for that were not hired, and that also contributes back towards this. And so any surplus spending will be allocated via the priority list, which is the motion S109 in the motions packet. And lovely pie chart of where allocations are going. So you can see where is the SGA budget? The SGA budget last year, for example, was 6.5%, and right now it's about 5.8%. So even though we have a net increase in the amount of the SGA budget, the total percentage of the SGA budget in regards to the SATF has actually shrunk. We also have, for example, the ad hoc fund, which has increased appropriations by $400,000. So it's a pretty significant increase from last year. And then we also have the agency fund, which for the operating budgets increased by about $200,000, plus all the mandatory salary increases and cost of living adjustment fringes that we are legally required to fund. Okay, so now some lovely comparisons from this year to last year. So this is just a comparison. FY26 is what they're operating on right now, and FY27 is what they will be operating on next year. So you can see we're bringing in about 33% more revenue to allocate out to RSOs. We can see that SLSO salaries are increasing by about 23%. SATF salary costs, that is decreasing by about 8%. That's just because the CSB position is being paid now by state money, and so the fringe is lower, and that's why it's decreased. And then the SATF computer tech support is just a, I guess, administrative error. I think from talking with Jen about that, she can correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, okay. And then the SATF financial advisor, and then student bridges, again, that's cost of living and adjustment. Okay, so some other stuff here in terms of how much your budget has increased by. A good caveat to note for SGA, we requested about 379 last year, but we got 250,000 because of the across the board cuts. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then you have all the comparisons from the agencies and all the other funds. This does not include a capital improvement or agency emergency funding because that's not something that we have this year. That's a new fund that's being established. Okay, agency funding. Again, this is a specific breakdown for each agency. So you can see after the fee increase that we did through Senate and on the ballot, pretty significant increases for majority of the agencies here. And then for RSOs, this one's a little jumbled here, but you can see at the top 1.37 million to 1.77, which is about a 33% increase. In terms of how much has been requested so far, as some of you guys may know, the Ways and Means Committee has been meeting to review requests up to October 18th. And so this budget cycle, about $405,000 has been requested out of the SATF. And out of that, after review by the Ways and Means Committee, we allocated about $318,000. So about 78% of what is requested is what has been given. Amount left for the total of FY27 is about 1.45 million. And then the amount left for the fall 2026 semester, which is about half of the fall, is about 389,000. And then the total amount left for the spring 2027 is 1.062 million. And the reason for that is just because the way the guidelines are worded, 40% of the total allocations will be for the fall semester and 60% is for the spring. That's just due to the distribution of events. They're generally speaking more larger and more events in the spring. And so we want to make sure we have enough funding to support RSOs. In terms of comparisons with the old process, so far, for example, last year, if you were to take the sum of what was requested before committee review versus how much was after across the board cuts, we were able to fulfill about 17.5% of requests. So not very good. The new process so far, and again, not perfect, and we're always trying to improve. So if you guys are in an RSO, please fill out that unified feedback form because that's how we get feedback to make changes. We were able to allocate about 78% of what was requested. So that's about a 61% improvement. So yay. Okay. Okay, any questions?
Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
I think this presentation, I mean, I don't know, round of applause. I don't know if that's not decorum, but
No, that's okay. You guys can clap.
because I will say when the chair before you had the role, it was, it was like the house was on fire, and it really was. It was pretty bad. But now, she transitioned to you, and with her guidance, you guys have been able to turn it around. So I guess my question is, it seems like everything is going well. We have funds now, but the side effect of all these funds is tuition going up. And so are we going to need to raise the SATF again in the future? Like, can we steady it? Can we go a year without raising the student activity fund? Because that affects tuition. So that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to give any formal opinion just because obviously with the political climate, things can change and fluctuate. And so pending extenuating circumstances, I was actually talking with JD about this back on the way from the RECO advisory board. This is the one time you hear me give a personal statement. I don't personally think that we will need to raise the SATF for at least between 1 to 3 years based off the current financial projections. Again, that can change given the circumstances or if student union blows up, God forbid, then, that's some, act of God that we would have to raise it. But other than that, I'm not aware of any major issues that would potentially require a fee raise.
Then my second question, if I may, is there any safeguards in place? Just you see, we have emergency funds and stuff like that, but just safeguards to avoid mistakes in the past, like typos, being a problem. Is there any safeguards?
This is something that I actually asked Maya last year. In terms of formal channels like bylaw amendments, that's kind of difficult to enshrine, but definitely something that I think that has worked this semester, and that Maya has started last semester is meeting weekly with SACO Finance and getting started earlier on the S1. So this is what you'll see in the attached motion is the final draft of the S1, but that was presented to SACO at least 2 to 3 weeks, and we already started talking about S1 projections all the way up in the fall. And so definitely over the transition period and even throughout next year, I'm always willing to, meet with the next chair and talk about the S1 process and make sure that, the ball doesn't get dropped in terms of that. But I will say for this S1, it's been looked over by multiple people. I've looked it over, Janice looked it over, JD's looked it over, and Michelle has also looked it over. So.
Any further questions? Chair Mello, go ahead.
Given that MOUs are binding, typically outside of the Senate's purview, what is the role that Senate can play in that kind of funding and voting?
Yeah, of course. In terms of agency MOUs, those are for the most part solidified. So I think I would encourage if anyone has any concerns or questions just to reach out to myself and obviously the next chair of Ways and Means. In terms of the MOU for Spring Concert, that has specific stipulations. So I'll briefly talk about it. Basically, the way it works is first, the president would have to initiate the process. There'll be deliberation phase. Then after that, they would have to go to Ways and Means. And then after that, they would have to go to Senate, and Senate would have to approve. So this would be the process for Spring Concert moving forward. And there are also additional stipulations within that MOU, which I can attach in the supplemental material after Senate. And that clearly outlines the requirements that UPC has to abide by in order to be eligible for funding, or else they can have their funding revoked by the Director of Finance. So there are accountability measures in place, and this is definitely something that has been discussed, definitely by myself, President Borowski, as well with JD, to make sure that we are equitably and transparently allocating the money to UPC, because we do acknowledge that spring concert is a very significant event for the campus committee, but it is $250,000, which is also a very significant amount.
Any more questions? All right, perfect. Thank you, Chair Trong. Appreciate it. Is there any other business for Committee of the Whole? All right, seeing none, the Senate will be in order, and the Committee of the Whole previously called into session stands adjourned. Wait, is it for Committee of the Whole? No. Okay. Yeah, what is it?
Motion to block vote S96 through S100.
The Senate, okay, sure. We'll vote on that in a little bit. The Senate has to vote on S1 before it can consider any other business on the agenda. Yes, so the Senate will be in order and continue considering the remainder of the agenda. The Senate will now consider S1, a motion to approve the 2025 annual SGA S1 Budget Act. This was reviewed by the Committee on Ways and Means on May 4th and was reported favorably. The sponsorship is recognized for a brief factual description.
This is the language copy and pasted from the last motion for the S1 from last year. So,
right. Sorry, let me read the full text before we go into questions. So, motion S1, whereas Article 5, Section 4J of the UMass Student Government Association Constitution grants the Senate the power to recommend the Student Activities Trust Fund operating budget by enactment of the annual SGA S1 Budget Act. And whereas under the provisions of Title II, Chapter 31 of the bylaws of the SGA, the power of formulating the annual SGA S1 Budget Act is delegated to the Senate Standing Committee on Ways and Means. And whereas under the provisions of Title VI, Chapter 8, Section 4 of the bylaws of the SGA, the Senate Ways and Means Committee is required to submit the S1 to the Senate no later than the Senate's second to last meeting of the spring semester. And whereas under the provisions of Title VI, Chapter 9, Section 4 of the bylaws of the SGA, the S1 is to be placed as a special order on the Senate's agenda for its second to last meeting of the regular period, and whereas the FY27 allocation process conducted by the Ways and Means Committee was fully in compliance with the guidance established by the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System versus Southworth, therefore be it resolved, the SGA Senate endorses the process and methods used by the Ways and Means Committee during its FY27 allocation process and recognizes that it was viewpoint neutral in nature, and be it therefore enacted, effective immediately, under the power granted to it by Article 5, Section 4J of the UMass Student Government Association Constitution, that the SGA Senate approves the recommendations of the Ways and Means Committee of the Student Activities Trust Fund operating budget for FY26. Chair Mello?
Can I motion to amend?
To amend.
To amend.
Change that to 27?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to get rid of the therefore.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Before we take amendments, we'll take questions and then entertain a second. Other questions about the S1 Budget Act? No questions? All right. Is there a second for the main motion? All right. So we'll take Chair Mello's amendment to strike the this therefore, which makes sense, and then amend FY26 to say FY27. Did you want to give a factual description for these changes? Are there any questions about the amendments being proposed? Just small corrections. Sponsorship, do you accept the amendments? Any objections? All right, the amendments are accepted then. All right. Are there any further motions to amend, or does there exist a need for debate on the S1? All right, with no indication of further amendments or need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S1. a motion to approve the 2025 annual SGA S1 Budget Act. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you. Chair Kim, you had a subsidiary motion?
Motion to block vote S96 through S100 for the 5 motions to appoint election commissioners for the upcoming academic year.
All right. The subsidiary motion called is to block vote S96 through S100, which are all of the Elections Commission appointments. Is there a second for the motion to block vote? Second. All right. All those in favor of block voting S96 through S100, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. All right. The ayes have it, and the subsidiary motion will be adopted. The Senate will now consider S96, S97, S98, S99, and S100, which are motions to appoint Abigail Brown, Sharvari Kadekar, Olivia Tarowski, Kennedy Wade, and Zainab Sheikh to the position of Elections Commissioner. The sponsorship is recognized for a factual description.
Hey guys, so in the last week, ODC received 17 applications for election commissioners for the upcoming academic year. We met last Thursday, which was the 29th of April, 30th, thank you. 30th of April to finalize decisions. These are the 5 candidates that the committee found were the most qualified for the role. Quick clarification, we gave only 15 interviews, which are conducted by Vice Chair Fatuso and I. 1 applicant withdrew their application and 1 applicant did not show up to their interview. Any questions? Any questions for the candidates also, because they're also here?
The hiring materials are also attached in the motions packet. Chair Trong? Oh, there's a question for a candidate? Can all the elections commissioner candidates who are here please line up next to Chair Kim? Thank you, guys. Sorry about that.
Also, they went through AA on Monday, so they're all confirmed by AA as well.
Chair Trong, go ahead with the question.
This is a question for all the candidates. First off, thank you guys so much for taking the time to apply. My question is, the Elections Commission is charged with making sure the elections are run freely and fairly. And so what steps will all of you guys take to make sure that you guys are impartial? And in the event of any confusion or need for clarification on bylaws, what steps will you take to make sure that you guys are clear and consistent with Election Commission's rulings?
We'll have each person answer, then just pass it down.
I think first and foremost, communication is the most important thing.
Sorry, if you could also say your name for the record before you speak.
My name is Zainab. I think communication is first and foremost most important, just because all of clarification goes through communication. And I think remaining impartial is important by getting to know all of the candidates and making sure of keeping that professional boundary as well. I think relying on SGA and other members of the SGA is important when it comes to clarification with laws and protocol.
My name is Abigail Brown. I'd have to agree. Communication would be my first and foremost most important thing. I think communication with the elections commissioners, the candidates, and the SGA in general. And then also making sure that every candidate is fairly represented and there's no favoritism toward particular candidates for any particular reason is one of the biggest steps to ensuring impartiality in the elections.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Wade. I completely agree with what the other two said, and I also believe that the best way we can remain impartial is making sure that we're listening to both sides if there's ever a dispute or a disagreement, that we're hearing everyone out and ensuring that we're representing each person.
Hi, my name is Olivia Tarowski. To put it bluntly, I have no personal incentive to favor a certain candidate or not. And I want to make sure that with working with all the candidates in the SGA that I make sure that it's as equal as possible and that everybody feels comfortable in their position. So
Thank you. Any further questions? Chair Mello, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, Chair Kim, I was curious if you could answer for Sharvari in her absence, just like a similar answer to any of these, if that was a question that was part of your application process, or if there's anything that you would say you got from her application, since she's not here to speak.
Sure. So in the interview minutes, which I believe are now in the supplemental materials folder, you should see their resumes, their written applications, alongside the minutes that were taken for their meetings. I believe that should be answered in the supplemental materials folder.
Any further questions? Yeah, Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
Thank you guys for taking the time and being interested in being election commissioners in the first place. I guess that's my question for each of you is like, you know, why the interest in being election commissioners and how will that help you with your role?
I'm going to actually ask anyone who's curious about this specific question to check the materials because this is like the first question we asked in the interview. So I believe all the responses, unless there's anything new.
Could we get a brief summary from the candidates verbally?
I don't see the meeting minutes in the supplemental materials.
On the motions packet, I believe. Okay. I'll try to get that fixed right now. In the meantime, if you guys could just speak briefly about your interest in the role, that'd be appreciated.
I did a lot of state leadership and local government in high school, and I was very interested in just the elections process as a whole. I attended Girls State, and over there, I was an elections commissioner as well, and I really enjoyed the process of seeing and working with the candidates and like seeing the campaigning process and how much you know, just a campaign process can have an effect on the candidates, but also bring the community together and really, you know, work towards change together. So just being a part of that, especially at campus, was something that was really appealing.
Yeah, kind of similarly, I have a very strong interest in government. I'm a political science minor and a specialization in social justice. So elections, especially given the current political climate, are something that are very important to me, ensuring that everything is fair and that the student body here at UMass is going to be represented well by the candidates and make sure that everything's fair so that everyone is represented throughout the entire campus, not just on the SGA.
I was interested because I was really wanting to see ways that I could get involved in SGA. And I think that election or commissioners have a very unique position where we see things more from an outsider perspective. So it's really interesting to see what is popular, what is expected, the direction that the school is going in. So I found it something that I wanted to be a part of and making sure that everyone's getting represented and that we're moving towards this in an unbiased manner.
yeah, I really like the impartiality of the role, and I'm interested in government and democracy on every level, and especially attending such a large school, I felt like this would be a great opportunity to get involved in that and kind of see how the government plays out with a really specific group.
Thank you. Do you guys have access to it in supplemental materials now? It's a Google Doc with tabs for each of the candidates. All right, perfect. Any other questions? All right. Is there a second for S96 through S100? Second. Does there exist a need for debate? With no indication of need for debate, the motions are called and the question is on the passage of S96 through S100. Motions to appoint Abigail Brown, Shravari Kedkar, Olivia Tarowski, Kennedy Wade, and Zainab Sheikh to the positions of Elections Commissioner. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motions are passed. Congratulations. Thank you. With that, the Senate will now move on to considering S101, A motion to appoint the following senators to the Summer Coordinating Council: Sharon Tackey, Abigail Facizo, Elliot Tick, Cody Germain. The sponsorship is recognized for a factual description.
So Coordinating Council, if you don't know already, this is a group of senators that will meet over the summer alongside me and Associate Speaker-elect Shruti. We'll be voting on any potential Coordinating Council committees to set that up so we can work a little bit over the summer. All chairs and ECAB members are automatically on this. So if you've been confirmed, or if you're going to be confirmed as a chair, then you're already on Coordinating Council and you do not need to be added. But if anyone in the current Senate term is interested in just voting on a few things, keeping an eye on anything that's happening in SGA or on campus, even when we're not on campus, I highly recommend you join the Coordinating Council. We need 6 people. If Senate approves Sharon, we'll have 4 senators. So we're looking for at least 2 people. And yeah, anyone interested in joining Coordinating Council?
Are there any questions about Coordinating Council before we continue? Any more? All right. Is there a second for the motion? All right. We'll open up amendments. If senators who are interested in serving on the Coordinating Council could just raise their placard. All right. Was anyone else interested in serving on Coordinating Council? All right. Sponsorship, do you accept the amendment? Any objections? All right, perfect. Are there any further amendments or need for debate on the motion? With no indication, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S-101, a motion to appoint the following senators to the Summer Coordinating Council. It is Sharon Tackey, Abigail Facizo, Elliot Tick, Cody Germain, Darren Trong, Cass Mello, Will Hood, and Sean Breen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. The Senate will now move on to consideration of S-102, a motion to appoint Sharon Juanita Tackey to the position of Chair of the Administrative Affairs Committee. This motion was reviewed by the Committee on Administrative Affairs on May 4th and was reported favorably. The sponsorship is recognized for a factual description.
All right, so this is the first of 5 appointments to chair positions for the upcoming academic year. Senator Shruti and I, we received over 65 applications for the 8 chair positions. I'm not going to go into details for every single one because that would take way too much time. I believe we received 6 applications for AA, and we selected Sharon to serve as next year's AA chair. Does anyone have any questions? Or actually, Lauren, do you have any clarification?
Well, I was the one who conducted Sharon's interview. I will say that it went very smoothly and she did a fabulous job. And given her previous experience in the Administrative Affairs Committee, I firmly stand behind our appointment of her.
Attached in the motions packet is a folder. So that should have resumes and the application questions. But if there's anything missing, let me know. We'll open up the floor to questions. Chair Trong, go ahead.
Hi, I had a 2-parter question. The first part is, what steps will you take as the Administrative Affairs Chair to ensure that there is adequate bylaw literacy within the SGA and our procedures? And then the second part of that is, what steps will you take in order to ensure that appeals and bylaw amendments and decisions are reflected and communicated on time?
Right. Thank you for your question. First off, in terms of bylaw literacy, I wanted to implement trainings on how to read the bylaws and essentially going through the different titles, what's in them, and outlining like what are you actually reading for when we're looking at the different corrections we're making in terms of the bylaws. But I wanted to do that for all of Senate and specifically within AA. And then in terms of communications, I want to create, number one, a shared calendar across the different Senate committees, kind of looking at when is AA scheduled to do all of these things to just kind of keep a consistent timeline so that everybody's kind of staying on track in terms of day-to-day Senate operations, but also, you know, when we have to confirm different executive positions and look at the various appeals that are coming through AA. So.
Any further questions? All right. Is there a second for the special order?
Second.
Does there exist a need for debate? With no indication of need for debate, the special order is called and the question is on the passage of S102, a motion to appoint Sharon Juanita Tackey as the chair of the Administrative Affairs Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Congratulations.
Yay.
All chair appointees, if you could stick around, once we complete the last appointment, we'll have you all be sworn in by the Chief Justice. The Senate will now move on to consideration of S103, a motion to appoint Alexandra Caron to the position of Chair of the Social Justice and Empowerment Committee. This was also reviewed by the Committee on Administrative Affairs on May 4th and was reported favorably. Sponsorship is recognized for a factual description.
I also conducted Alexandra's interview, and I must say that it went fabulously. I was truly amazed by some of their responses. So honestly lovely. And again, I firmly stand behind this confirmation and appointment. So.
All right. Any questions? Chair Trong, go ahead.
Hello. So my question is, as the chair of SOJEC, you're responsible for advocating for all students. And so what steps will you take to make sure that all student voices are included in discussions and conversations, even those that typically may not align with some of SGA members' personal political affiliations? And then my second two-parter question is, what steps do you plan to take to ensure that implicit bias is minimized as much as possible within the organization?
Okay, I'm going to address the second question first because that's what I remember, and you're going to have to restate the first one for me. So implicit bias, it's implicit. We don't know what's happening. So to say that you are free of implicit bias would be a lie. No one can be free of implicit bias because we all have those, but we can do our best to mitigate implicit bias or by doing trainings or being educated on what's going on and continuously being in conversation, and just keeping the space open for corrections and learning, because that will, mistakes will happen. And then can you repeat the first question?
Yes, the first question was, what steps will you take to ensure that all voices are included in discussions and conversations, even those that may traditionally disagree with personal political affiliations of SGA representatives?
Yeah, so I think that, well, first off, I would need a clarification of what conversations you're specifically referring to, but I can answer generally just as like in SGA as like a chair, holding a chair position. Yeah, so I would say, I know that the committee meetings are open. So anyone who's joining, I plan on in the committee having like a set of community guidelines or things that we all follow to create not necessarily create a brave space for all of us to make mistakes, ask questions, and learn from each other.
Senator Walker Hoover, you're recognized.
I think there's only one mic. But no, my question is, as a member of SOJEC myself, I've seen in your application you plan to collaborate with the Josephine White Eagle Cultural Center. And my question is, why not collaborate with CMAS entirely? You know, there's Malcolm X Center, there's a LACC, and then there's the Asian American Cultural Center. So how can we collaborate with all of them?
Yes. Yeah, it was an application just the beginning. Those are the connections that I currently hold. So that's why I wrote about it in the application. And I obviously want to expand those connections. And if there were to be senators that join that committee that also feel passion about that project, of course, we will explore that. I was just including in the application what I currently am passionate about.
Chair Mello, go ahead.
Thank you. How do you plan to utilize and grow Sojek's new Instagram account, if at all?
Yeah, I plan to, well, it's a new Instagram account. I would like to preface by saying I do not use social media and I do not have I do not have Instagram, but that does not hinder me from making flyers, making content, and being tapped in other ways. I still can, though I do not have the Instagram app, I can still use Instagram.com. And my senators presumably will also have Instagram, so I can communicate closely with them to keep the Instagram up and running.
Thank you. Senator Breen, go ahead.
So I was a member of Sojek this semester, and I really liked the work, but I found that like we kind of had a hard time getting the word out, like especially to just like people that aren't really in the sphere all the time. And I was like wondering how you plan to kind of get stuff that we were doing out there more.
When you say stuff that you're doing, you mean current events that the Sojek committee was holding?
Current events and like just stuff like we have a Plan B machine downstairs. I feel like people don't know about that, and it's great to utilize stuff like that. I think there's like just a lot of work that kind of goes unnoticed by like the general student body.
Yeah, I would say just from sitting in the Senate meeting today, it seems that the work that SGA does is hard to translate to the general student body. And I would, yeah, so first we talked about the Instagram that was just started. So there's that. And also I was talking to the current chair about potentially moving the Plan B machine to a more accessible place just so people know about it. But I think my large goal next year would be to creating relationships, because we can't only rely on Instagram. And I think a lot of ways word gets out is through relationships and our friends and telling other people about it. So making that a priority.
Senator Belair, you're recognized.
First off, thank you so much. And going to that same ideas, and I just wonder, in regards to voice in amplification and just the idea of just like maybe leadership or initiative, what are some ideas that you have that can just implement that even further or just like factual I would say initiative for next semester?
The first part of the question, you said voice amplification?
Yeah. Like trying to just implement like more students to just involve in just people that feel like they don't have a voice, just to implement that in that way.
I think part of that is kind of what I answered in the last question of we have the Instagram, and I think I'm going to try to instill in the committee strong like relationships and building relationships with the orgs, not just an Instagram DM or not just an email, like showing up to meetings, participating in events, and building deep connections with the organizations we're trying to collaborate with. So it's not just a surface level relationship, and hopefully it can continue throughout the years. So hopefully with those relationships, that would encourage people to show up to suppose a Senate meeting or show up to our committee meetings and continue to show up to events.
Chair Hood, you're recognized.
How would you say your values or worldview shapes how you would approach this position?
I would say I'm going to touch upon one value that I hold, and it comes from Bell Hooks' theory on love. And that love is not just a feeling; it is an action, and it contains many components like honesty, commitment, and I think that shapes how all my relationships and interactions with people, and that will shape how I am a chair on this committee and form relationships with senators, organizations, and the student body.
Any further questions? All right. Is there a second for the motion? Second. Does there exist a need for debate? With no indication of a need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S-103, motion to appoint Alexandra Coran to the position of Chair of the Social Injustice and Empowerment Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Congratulations. The Senate will now consider S-104, a motion to appoint Joshua Seversky to the position of Chair of the Undergraduate Services Committee. This motion was also reviewed by the Committee on Administrative Affairs on May 4th, 2026, and was reported favorably. Sponsorship, take it away.
I don't think he needs an introduction. It's Joshua Seversky, guys. Coming back as USC chair for the upcoming academic year, we received Seversky application for USC, and it was one of the more competitive chair. Sorry about that. One of the more competitive chair positions, but we were happy to see the application. Had an amazing interview. Yeah, dude, come up here. I personally have loved working with Joshua even yesterday, like on Solve for the past academic year. He's a real stand-up guy. Do you guys have any questions for him if you haven't asked already?
Chair Trong, go ahead.
So as I'm sure you're well familiar with, USC is a project-based committee, and a lot of times you'll have freshman senators who are rotating in and they're learning how SGA works and interacting with admin and managing projects. So my question is, what steps or resources will you take to ensure that your committee members are able to work effectively on their projects as well as the transition of those projects?
So just since starting this semester, I took a lot of inspiration from the chair that I saw, which was Ashan, on how like he kind of taught us how to start our projects, like strategic planning and then like making a long big document and like planning everything out, being thorough, and then like consultation. And I kind of carried that over, kind of continuing to guide my committee. So I think just being thorough with them, walking them through like all the steps. Just kind of guiding them under my wing, if you will. What was the other part of the question? Okay.
Chair Mello, go ahead.
Hi, I was curious about one thing you think you did well as USC chair and one thing you're hoping to improve for next year.
I think my committee meetings are kind of fun, right? Right, guys? Yes. So I think having a good like committee vibe is important. And I think something that maybe I could use more, I think going off of that, something that could be improved is maybe the structure of my meetings, being a bit more organized. Sometimes a little too much fun, you know? Yeah. Yep.
Any further questions?
I would like to add onto what Chair Kim was saying earlier. Something that we really admired about Josh's application was his plans to continue work as chair and like to already endeavors that he had started this year into next year. So, yay!
Yay.
Any further questions? Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
I'm sure this is probably in the packet, but like, could you just like give me like a glimpse of what like the next fall might look like? You know, just like broad glimpse of like plans and strategies.
So some of the things I talked about in my application was working on like, as basic as it sounds, making like an Instagram and a TikTok, because I think that's a good way of like getting the word out. Because I want since USC is like undergraduate services, I want people to like feel comfortable coming to us, like no problem, big or small, you know. whatever the problem may be, to like feel comfortable that like they can communicate it to us, and even if it's a stupid little thing or if it's a big thing, like we'll listen to them and kind of they can feel heard. And so, yeah, I want to kind of make that a bigger thing, more publicity and stuff, and also help foster some of the projects that were started this year, like Charlotte's break housing thing that's getting passed on, and Elliot and Betty and special assistants kosher thing. It's pretty cool. I want to see these things kind of flourish into next year and grow. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Chair Hood, go ahead.
You don't have to go into detail. I'm just curious. What is the break housing thing?
Well, it's a project because right now it's a big problem for like international students that they have to like pay for break housing extra or like move all their stuff. Like it's a big inconvenience. So just making that easier for them, making break housing more available for anyone, but especially international students. They don't want to have to like move all their stuff or, get kicked out of the dorms and fly all the way back home if it's just like a short like Thanksgiving break or something,
Any more questions? All right. Is there a second for the motion? Does there exist a need for debate? With no indication of a need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S-104, a motion to appoint Joshua Seversky to the position of Chair of the Undergraduate Services Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Congratulations. The Senate will now consider S-105, a motion to appoint Sigrid Kim to the position of Chair of the Outreach and Development Committee. This motion was reviewed by the Committee on Administrative Affairs on April 4th and was reported favorably. Sponsorship is recognized.
All right, so we interviewed Sigrid in the last 2 weeks ago, actually, because she submitted her application really early. Not that that was a factor in the decision-making process, but I really liked her application as the outgoing ODC chair. She encompasses and contains all the values and the drive that I think the person in this position needs. I'm really excited to be working on her with interviews this summer, any questions for ODC, any plans that she may have that are outlined not only in her application, but that I'm sure she'd be happy to answer if the Senate has any questions right now. Yeah. Do you have anything to add, either of you?
I'll add something really quickly. Similar to what we said for Josh, Sigrid had a lot of amazing plans that we're very excited to see enacted next year. So, yay.
Any questions? Chair Mello, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question for the soon-to-be speaker and associate speaker. So seeing as Sigrid mentioned in her application that she's friends with Lauren, I was curious if this application process differed from any of the other processes or how that decision happened.
There was absolutely nothing different between Sigrid's interview or anyone else who applied for ODC chair. It's the same procedure, the same questions. JD has been copied on every single email that we sent for every decision. If there's anything different, he will have seen it. There is, again, Sigrid got no special treatment. She got no special notice that the application was open. Both Lauren and I were present for her interview. If there are concerns that her process was unfair, please raise them now.
And adding on to that point, I chose to respect viewpoint neutrality and step back from this interview and strictly took notes. So that was a big factor of this too. I completely recognize that as we are friends, we've known each other previously, that I should abstain from our conversation regarding her appointment.
Thank you. Further questions? Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking at Sigrid's resume. It's pretty impressive. But when I looked at the application, like the last question, doesn't seem like she has formal PR experience. And so I'm really just curious how much PR experience do you need for this role, and if she's willing to go through trainings or some type of something to get her up to speed on PR.
I can take this one.
Yeah.
All right. So, obviously I'm the current ODC chair, and I've been working really closely with not only the current secretary of PR, but also the 3 previous secretaries of PR that I've had the opportunity to work with during my time as senator in the SGA. In my opinion, no formal PR experience is no formal or former PR experience is necessary. I trust that we'll be working with the future director of PR and marketing under President Broski's administration to make sure that everyone's caught up over the summer and during Senate training and leadership retreat in the fall. All current chairs and executive cabinet members, aside from a few that just couldn't make it, did attend a formal PR training in the fall before classes started. And I paid attention. I'd say I did a pretty decent job being ODC chair with no formal or former PR experience. And I trust that Sigrid will also be working well with the future director of PR and marketing in the upcoming year. And if there are ever any questions, she knows who to reach out to.
Senator Wu, go ahead.
Hello. Hi. I wanted to ask we got a presentation where a lot of students mentioned how they would really like a more comprehensive newsletter. As chair of ODC, how will you work with other committees on shared projects like this in order to make that a reality? I know there are some people who are asking for more financial transparency and for more information regarding what the SGA does.
First and foremost, I like to say that communication definitely starts with hearing everyone's voices and making sure everyone's needs are heard and understood. And I definitely think the best way to do this is first lay out the proper expectations for it so that we can stay on track with the newsletter and hearing each other's voices out, and also just making sure there's no personal biases. And I think that's the most important factor.
Any more questions? Chair Trong, go ahead.
Yeah, it's more of a general question. Since you mentioned in your application that you have no prior experience with an SGA, however, none is required. I was just curious, given the complexity that undergraduate students generally express in terms of navigating our processes, I was wondering if you could go into a little bit more specifics in terms of how you plan on familiarizing yourself with these processes, and then publicizing that to the general public, is that is something that I think has consistently been something that we have struggled to do as an institution broadly.
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
What specific steps do you plan on taking to familiarize yourself with SGA processes with emphasis on finance and registry, and then deciphering that out to the general student body?
Although I don't have any SGA prior experience, throughout my high school years, I have participated in leadership activities by hosting, by finding a club, and holding campaigns and cookie fundraisers to spread awareness and share to the general public about what's going on and spread awareness. I think I mentioned in my application that I held a POC history and communication club. Essentially, what I did was I covered what the mainstream media did not really cover, and what I mainly did was during assemblies, I would ask the principal if I could speak about what's going on, and encourage them to come to fundraisers to help spread awareness about what's going on. So I definitely think that will be helpful, and I don't think my lack of SGA experience will be any disadvantage towards me.
Any further questions? Chair Mello, go ahead.
I know that this year SGA had some difficulties with cross-branch communication and with ensuring that we got enough votes in the election. So I was curious about what steps you would take to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on in the SGA and outside of it as well.
I definitely think one of the best ways we're probably using social media, such as Instagram. I do have some prior experience with social media, especially with how the algorithm works and what the audience primarily enjoys and what gets the most engagement in it.
So I definitely think I can help contribute to the social media aspect to spread awareness about what's going on both on and off campus.
Any further questions? All right. Is there a second for the motion? Does there exist, oh wait, sorry. Somebody from the outside, second. Does there exist a need for debate? With no indication of a need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S-105, a motion to appoint Sigrid Kim to the position of Chair of the Outreach and Development Committee. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Congratulations. The Senate will now consider S-106, a motion to appoint Faria Ashrafi to the position of Chair of the Undergraduate Registry Oversight Committee. This motion was reviewed by the Committee on Administrative Affairs on May 4th and was reported favorably. Sponsorship, go ahead.
Right, so if you didn't know her already or see her earlier, this is Faria, and she has been a wonderful vice chair for UROC in the last year. I've seen her chair multiple meetings when Chair Hood wasn't able to make it, and she's done a great job. One emphasis that I didn't speak about earlier was the incoming speaker's office's priority of keeping really good records, and I was blown away by Faria's dedication to make sure that everything's in place, which is really important, not just for registry processes, but just the SGA in general, and also our future focus on making sure that things get communicated well to the university archives, which is a personal interest and personal focus of mine. Again, she submitted her application really early, not a factor in the process, but we like to see people who are excited to talk about it. She also came directly to me before applications even opened, showing that she's really excited for the position and is very interested. Alongside this, the going through the recommendation from Chair Hood was also always appreciated, showing that, she's willing to do the work that needs to be done for the registry process, especially as we're going for, 6 major changes that may not be completely well known to the student body right now, but are really important moving forward as we continue to shape and steward the RSO process going forward.
Yeah, adding on to that, Faria's dedication to their UROC committee is truly admirable, as you could see by her and Chair. Why am I blanking on your last name right now? I'm so sorry, Chair Hood. Their beautiful presentation in the beginning of Senate. She spoke to us a lot about her plans to increase communications with RSOs and ensuring that the processes are very clear. And we just found that truly incredible. And we are very excited to see what she does in the future.
All right, questions? Chair Trong, go ahead.
Hi, just a very brief question. So as Chair Hood previously mentioned, given that UROC will no longer be mandated to conduct the CAP process, I was just curious what other projects that you are interested in pursuing aside from obviously the RSG applications.
Yeah, so it was previously mentioned that we definitely need more efficient ways to communicate with RSOs. So having the confusions about policies, I would say definitely clearing that up first thing and making sure they know about all the new bylaws and the new changes that's going on. So those are the things that we definitely want to focus on first. And yeah, if that makes sense.
Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again for taking more questions. Just to reiterate, the moment, right? 300 RSOs on campus is a lot, and I know the RSG system is supposed to smooth things out. But my question is, in terms of RSOs not having access to facilities, that seems like something that is a letter or something that could just be communicated because space is limited. And so for obstacles like that, what is your solution when you're in the chair position?
So I think having other senators in the committee and just the committee members in general more involved in the process, that would make it much more faster and just more efficient and just making sure that the RSOs are getting the right attention. So I would say that is something that I'm thinking of like making sure that happens.
Chair Mello, go ahead.
Hi. How do you think that your role as vice chair has prepared you for chairing, and what would you do to support the next vice chair given your own experience?
Yeah, I had so much fun being vice chair. It was really, really fun, like learning everything, like how RSOs like operate, just like the whole system. I would say definitely UROC, we need a lot of like organization structure. So making sure the next vice chair is involved in that. And yeah, just like having a good like committee, just like relationship in general.
Any further questions? All right. Is there a second for the motion? Does there exist a need for debate? With no indication of a need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S-106, a motion to appoint Faria Ashrafi to the position of Chair of the Undergraduate Registry Oversight Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Would all of the chair...
Sorry about that again, Will.
Would all of the chair appointees please come to the front of the room to take the oath of office? Yes. Yeah, I yield the chair to the Chief Justice.
I believe that is everyone, so if you'll just repeat after me. I do affirm to faithfully execute the office of SGA Committee Chair and support the Constitution and general bylaws of the Student Government Association. Lovely, thank you. Congrats.
Yes, yeah.
I'd now like to invite up our Speaker-elect and Associate Speaker-elect to take their oaths as well. Oh, it's not.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, for the speaker, just repeat after me. I do affirm to faithfully execute the office of SGA Speaker and support the Constitution and bylaws of the Student Government Association. Congratulations.
And then you want me to do that one right after?
Okay. And then for the associate speaker, just repeat after me. I do affirm to faithfully execute the office of SGA Associate Speaker and support the Constitution and bylaws of the Student Government Association. Lovely. Thank you and congrats.
Congratulations, most of you guys. Thank you. Yeah, just, I guess.
So, yeah, I mean, I can briefly do that and then be on my way, but if that interrupts your proceedings, like, I don't want to.
No, just like yielding the chair back
Okay.
right now.
Yeah.
And then I am quickly still up here, having the chair still. I know that Chair Mello had asked if there could be a brief judiciary report. So for those who don't know me, my name's Isabella. I'm the current Chief Justice of the Judiciary. You don't see us a lot. We do exist, I promise. And just to kind of give some updates as to what's going on, I think with the new bylaws implemented, there's going to be some presence from the judiciary at the beginning of the semester and at the end of the semester, just to provide updates on what's going on. So as for this semester, we did get some new associate justices sworn in and trained, and so we now have a full panel. And we're in the process of conducting our election so that we'll have a new Chief Justice and Associate Chief Justice for next year. And those have really been the big things. There haven't been too many petitions or any issues sent our way, which is a good thing. Mostly means that everything's going well in the Senate and no one's getting in trouble, which is good. But yeah, other than that, this will be my time wrapped up on the judiciary as I'm graduating and I'm out of here. So yeah, other than that, just wanted to give an update and thanks. I'll yield the chair back if that's what you guys do.
Thank you. All right. That concludes the special orders for this meeting. And no unfinished business remains from our prior meeting, which means that we'll move into new business. Chair Mello, you're recognized.
Point of parliamentary inquiry, when did the president and vice president take the oath of office?
When do they take the oath of office? Do you know, when does your term start?
June 1st.
June 1st?
Did they not take it last year alongside the speaker and associate speaker?
I don't remember.
I did take
Let-
it.
Okay, also point of clarification, yeah, judicial, that was an update that was given to the judicial bylaws, was the report at the end of each, I think it was at the end of each year.
Okay. Well, I guess we can swear in the president now too, then, if you don't mind. Is Vice President-elect?
Can I call James and see if he can?
Take it on the phone? All right, I guess, why not? We'll go a little unorthodox with this one.
He stole it from me. That's why it's in his bag.
Hey, James. I got something real funny for you. Where are we? Could you come upstairs? You gotta take the oath of office. You forgot to do that. Is that possible?
All right. Yeah, elections commission appointees are good to go. Thank you guys for coming. I'd like to invite up the president and vice president-elect to officially take the oath of office, and I'll yield the chair again to the Chief of Justice. Whoa, wait.
Okay, starting with the, should I start with the president? I think that makes sense. Starting with the president, please repeat after me. I do affirm to faithfully execute
I do affirm to faithfully execute
the office of SGA president
the office of SGA president
and support the Constitution and general bylaws
and support the Constitution and general bylaws
of the Student Government Association.
of the Student Government Association.
Congratulations. Welcome to a second term. And then for the vice president, please repeat after me. I do affirm to faithfully execute
I do affirm to faithfully execute
the office of SGA vice president
the office of SGA vice president
and support the Constitution and general bylaws
and support the Constitution and general bylaws
of the Student Government Association.
of the Student Government Association.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, you're all set. Thank you. All right. With that, the Senate will now move on to new business. The Senate will now consider S-107, a motion
Was the chair ever yielded back?
yielded. Thank you. The Senate will now consider S-107, a motion to amend Title IX of the SGA General Bylaws. This was reviewed by the Committee on Administrative Affairs on May 4th and was reported favorably. Sponsorship is recognized for a factual description.
This is just updated in compliance with Mass state law. Same thing with Title VI.
Yeah. If you want to say something.
This was also reviewed by SLSO and JD also informed us of this. So just in compliance with federal and state law.
And if I may ask, what specifically was changed in order to be compliant with which law?
Yes. So accountability logs, you can mandate that if they don't fill out, they resigned for any unelected position. However, you cannot withhold pay. So we're striking the clause that would withhold pay. However, if you don't fill it out and you're on payroll, even if you're not working any hours, you still need to log it. If you miss it 3 times and it's not excused, you'll be automatically resigned by inaction. No notification is required. And this applies to all people on payroll except for conduct advisors and senators on Ways and Means.
Any further questions? All right. Before we entertain a second, the motion does fall under the first read policy, but obviously we don't have really any in-person meetings left. So the chair will entertain a motion to override the first read policy. All right, motion received. Is there a second? All right, all those in favor of overriding first read for this motion, say aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. All right, the ayes have it, and first read is overridden. Were there any questions about the Title IX amendment? Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
Just curious, because I've seen the sponsorship of the motion. It's okay for the advisor to sponsor the motion, right? I know it's a common sense question, but.
Yeah, I believe so. I think any organizations, I think that any person really can sponsor a motion. We've had former SGA members sponsor stuff. We've had outside organizations sponsor stuff. So I think it should be good. Any further questions? Is there a second for the motion? Does there exist a need for debate on the motion? With no indication of a need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S-107, a motion to amend Title IX of the SGA General Bylaws. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. The Senate will now consider S-108, a motion to amend Title VI of the SGA General Bylaws. This was reviewed by the Committee on Ways and Means on May 4th and was reported favorably. Sponsorship, go ahead.
Same reasoning, and then we changed a couple of things from Finance Subcommittee to Ways and Means for capital improvement because now it's under Ways and Means and not the Finance Subcommittee.
Any questions for the sponsorship? All right. Same deal with this motion. The chair will entertain a motion to override first read. Is there a second? All right. Those in favor of overriding first read, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. All right. First read overridden. Is there a second for S-108? Does there exist a need for debate on the motion? With no indication of a need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S-108, A motion to amend Title VI of the SGA General Bylaws. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion is passed. Senate will now consider S109, a motion to establish Student Activities Trust Fund priority list for fiscal year 2027, sponsored by Chair Trong. Go ahead.
So this is the first year, I think, in 2 or 3 years that we've had a priority list because I don't know if you guys have noticed, we haven't had a lot of money. And so this motion is basically, can we go to the correct motion?
Yeah, my fault. Actually, I forgot this one had text, so I'll read the text first, and then we'll have you go into it. Wait, what is this? Oh, this is the motions packet. All right. Whereas SGA Constitution Article 5, Section 4, subsection E of the Student Government Association Constitution grants the University Undergraduate Senate the power to, in conjunction with the approval of the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, enact, amend, or repeal the general bylaws. And whereas for the past 2 fiscal years, the Ways and Means Committee has not created a priority list as the SGA has not had a surplus in the budget. And whereas Title 6, Chapter 17, Section 2 and 3 of the SGA General Bylaws outlines the process for establishing a priority list that will be funded if extra money is available, requiring a simple majority vote by the Ways and Means Committee and 2/3 majority vote by the Senate. And whereas these reforms to Title 7, Chapter 17, Sections 2 and Title 6, Chapter 17, Sections 2 and 3 were implemented this semester in order to ensure financial flexibility and fiscal responsibility. And whereas the Summer Coordinating Council has the authority to allocate any surplus after the priority list funded, and be it therefore adopted by the University Undergraduate Senate of the Student Government Association, effective immediately, the following priority list, with 1 being the first line item funded in chronological order. And these line items are 1, Student Union Strategic Plan Project, which is allocated $72,000. Line item 2, which is Capital Improvement Fund, which is up to $125,000. Item 3 is long-term reserves, which is also up to $125,000. And item 4, any additional surplus appropriations shall be allocated by the Coordinating Council. Sponsored by Chair Trong and the Committee on Ways and Means.
Yeah, so if you guys are looking on the spring bylaws, it has not been updated, but to my knowledge, it's been passed and signed already. And so basically, the process for Section 2 outlines during the special period, if the Senate were to pass this or whatever they amend and pass, for example, if the bullet point 1 is funded and passed by the Senate, this would allow us to delegate this amount of funding to JD and Michelle over the summer to institute their strategic plan. And the strategic plan is linked in the materials. It should be viewable to everyone. If you have any questions or it's not accessible, please let me know so I can update that. And so that's what Section 2 does. Ways and Means Committee reviewed the strategic plan submitted by JD and Michelle, and we passed it unanimously. And then for Section 3, that just basically says that if we have enough surplus that all of these line items are already funded, any additional surpluses will be up to the Coordinating Council to allocate, which would probably end up in long-term reserves or capital improvement anyways. But
Are there any questions for the sponsorship? Any questions? All right. Same thing. I'll entertain a motion to override first read. Motion received. Is there a second? All those in favor of overriding first read, say aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. All right. First read overridden. Is there a second for the motion itself? Does there exist a need for debate on S109? With no indication of need for debate, the motion is called and the question is on the passage of S109, a motion to establish Student Activities Trust Fund priority list for fiscal year 2027. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion is passed. Congratulations. Yeah, sure. Yes, Associate Speaker Germain.
I have some business for us to consider that wasn't on the agenda 48 hours prior.
Some business not anticipated 48 hours prior to? Interesting. Very well. I will now read the motion.
It's in supplementary materials.
Okay. I will now read the motion. Whereas Title I, Chapter 14, Section 2 of the General Bylaws of the Student Government Association authorizes the University Undergraduate Senate to award and present in the name of the Student Government Association a medal of appropriate design to an individual who has distinguished themselves conspicuously by exceptional service to the student body and the SGA. And whereas Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, Darren Trong, has been deeply committed to not only the Ways and Means Committee and the Student Government Association, but to the undergraduate student body as a whole. And whereas Darren has worked tirelessly to ensure that every dollar of student fee money is spent in a way that benefits students. And whereas Darren rewrote Title VI of the SGA General Bylaws and wrote a new section, Title IX, in an effort to ensure transparency and accountability to the student body. And whereas Darren has shown tremendous kindness and thoughtfulness while carrying out the duties of his role, and whereas Darren consistently works more hours than any other member of the Student Government Association, spending many late nights and weekends in the SGA office, and whereas Darren has exhibited all characteristics necessary of receiving the Senatorial Medal of Honor, therefore be it resolved that the University Undergraduate Senate hereby awards Darren Trong the SGA Senatorial Medal of Honor in recognition of exceptional service to the student body, the Senate, and the Student Government Association. And be it further resolved that upon adoption of this resolution, the Speaker or an appropriate designee shall make a formal announcement of the award before the Senate in accordance with Title I, Chapter 14, Section 3 of the General Bylaws. Is there a second for adding this to the agenda? Second. All right. All those in favor of adding this business to the agenda, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. All right. The ayes have it and this motion is adopted. So now the resolution to award the SGA Medal of Honor to Darren is on the floor. Sponsorship, you want to give a factual description?
I believe that Darren has proved himself more than worthy of this award through all of his hard work this year. It's truly amazing how someone can have such dedication to the student body, and for someone to work so hard is truly amazing. And so I think, he's worthy of the Medal of Honor.
Thank you. In lieu of questions, we'll open up the floor to anyone who just wants to make any kind of statement about the recipient of the award. Senator Schuette, go ahead.
Darren is the GOAT, and I'm just saying that literally amazing the work you've done this year, and thank you for saving our finances. Seriously, thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you. Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier, phenomenal job. I mean, I'd love to be a co-sponsor of this. There's many nights where I've seen Darren working day in, day out, on a Sunday, 5 o'clock, he's at his chair working on something financial. And so just an amazing job well done.
Thank you. Yeah, anyone who wants to be added to the co-sponsors list, just come up to us after the meeting and we'll put your name down on the motion document. Chair Hood, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say beyond his hard work, I think Darren has distinguished himself through his care for others as well, and just his temperament. I think in his position, it could be easy to get frustrated with people, to be mean, to be harsh. But I think he's really showed like beyond being a hard worker, just like one of the most caring people I've ever met. And every time I walk into the office, I always peer around the corner. I'm like, please let Darren be here. Please let Darren be here. Because he just makes the office a brighter place, even when he's going through it constantly. I'll look over and he'll be asleep in his chair. Like, trying to work on homework and budgets at the same time. Like, he's a crazy guy, but just truly caring. And I don't think anyone else deserves this as much as him. So,
Chair Mello.
Yeah, even this past weekend, I have 10 separate calls on my phone from Darren. He's always working. This guy never stops. He even in the middle of preparing all of his S1 materials, he made me stop and give him a full rundown on the state of menstrual product availability at UMass Amherst. This guy's just passionate about every single topic, and he cares so much about everyone. It's just such a pleasure to work with, and I'm so glad to be his friend. Thank you, Darren.
Senator Valencia Gallego, go ahead.
I think I can speak on behalf of the Ways and Means Committee that Darren has played the most outstanding role that I've ever seen of any chair. Just the way he manages everything, the way he checks on us to make sure that we're doing all the work, ensuring that we're not in chaos while budget voting. And overall, just an amazing individual, always pushing us to do the best that we can do and making sure that the budgets and everything goes accordingly. Thank you so much, Darren.
JD.
I don't think my superiors would mind me speaking on their behalf in this situation, because I can tell you with certainty that everyone from Dr. Chris Brakely, Sid Ferreira, and our Vice Chancellor, Shelley Permed Ahmed, have been blown away at everything that you have done this year. You have paid attention to every single little detail that has allowed for this organization to turn itself around financially. I came here, it was an absolute mess. And in the last 2 semesters, we have done work that the consultants that we paid said would take us 3 to 5 years. And that is just absolutely remarkable. I've been involved in student government and researching student government for the better part of the last 7 or 8 years. And I have never heard of one single individual carrying such levels of reforms on their back for the entire year. It's been fantastic, and I will echo everything that Will said on how pleasant and wonderful it is having you in that office all the time. Thank you so much.
Chair Dami.
Going along with what Will and JD just said about you just being in the office, every single time I walk in, I'll always peek over and I'll always see you there. And it's just so nice to have someone that like will just ask me how my day is, and just be there and always just give me the rundown on what's going on in the SGA. You're a great friend, Darren, and I'm so glad to call you my friend over here too.
Senator Calvo.
There we go. I just want to say 2 things. First of all, he's like the most chill guy I've ever met. Honestly, like, I think that's the proper word to describe him. Like, he's just so chill. He's always nonchalant, incredible. Also, he's just like always in the office. When I go over there, like he's in the office. I talk to him. He tells me, I've been here since like the crack of dawn. I've been here forever. I'm just gonna say like he's hardworking and chill. Like, yeah, awesome dude.
Senator Wu, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to say like this year I met like Darren and I was like a new senator and everything was like really confusing, but I don't think there was like a committee better than Ways and Means for me to understand the Student Government Association as much as I do. And then most of that is due to the leadership of Darren. Even when things got really rough, like academically, like and within Senate, like he never ever like made it like anybody else's issue. Like as long as you were communicating these issues with him, and there were some sort of communication going on between the member and him, like everything was fine. And I think I just want to appreciate you for everything you've done, even before my time, but also navigating us through ad hoc and all the budget voting, which was like over 200 like budget, but like applications, and we allocated like so much like money. So, that takes a lot of leadership, and I think no one deserves it like more than you do in this Senate body.
Senator Tacky.
I permanently refer to Darren as an office gremlin because that man lives there. I have never met somebody who holds people to a standard that they themselves hold themselves to a higher standard. Like, he's consistently looking for a level of excellence from Senate that he always goes above and beyond to excel past. And that is something I will always really appreciate about Darren. He doesn't ask something of you he's not doing himself, and he will never do that. Beyond that, he is one of the kindest human beings you will ever meet. He likes to give like fake smiles and come off as gruff sometimes, but he is one of the sweetest human beings you will ever meet in terms of Senate, but like period. And it has genuinely been a joy to work with Darren. I think he is always somebody who is looking for ways to get people involved in ways and means, and to get people involved in his committee, and to pull people into the activities of Senate and say, this is accessible to you and this is something you can do. And that is something I will always really, really appreciate about Darren as a person and as a friend. I think Darren is the one person I know who will always encourage a workable solution. It doesn't matter what I tell Darren. Darren will look at me and be like, you need to have a conversation. You need to sit down. You need to think this through. And I will always appreciate Darren for being a friend, but also for being somebody who is so dedicated to everything he does. So you deserve this, Darren, more than anybody in this organization. And honestly, I would say more than anybody on this campus.
Senator Golu.
He gives the mic as well. Having Darren in the right corner of me every meeting, and just whenever I want to speak, seeing him turn around and give the mic without relentlessly just being there. And with all the work that he's done, just when I think about next year and SGA, I wish UMass just gives all the endowment they get to Darren, make him continue doing what he does. But in his all this busy schedule, he also gave me a dorm tour because I asked. So he's just, what a guy.
Any further comments? Senator Schuette, go ahead.
Shining back on what you said, I expect you for next year's SGA watching party to be the chill guy. So this is off record, but yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone at all? All right. Is there a second for the resolution? Second. Does there exist a need for debate? Better not. All right. With that, then, the resolution is called to award the Senatorial Medal of Honor to Darren Trong. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. So by almost unanimous vote, the resolution is passed. Congratulations, Darren. You earned it. All right. That does conclude the business for the Senate meeting. So with that, I believe we'll move on to officer reports. University Student Trustee Marino is recognized. Present. President Borowski is recognized.
Oh, geez, guys, it's so hard saying goodbye. Not really, though. No, but I bet, I just wanted to say that I'm really proud of this body for the past year in place of a traditional officer report. I kind of want to echo what JD said earlier, where this summer, all I did was research student governments, what they get up to, and how they go through reforms. And we did more in this 1 year than most student governments do in a decade. And honestly, we got through it with minimal casualties, I'd say. We really got through it pretty scot-free. And I think that's not because of any predetermined way this was going to end up. This was honestly a make or break year. This was the deciding factor. If we had not done good this year, things could have been so much worse. But we don't have to think about that because we walk the walk as well as talking the talk. So I think you should all be very proud of yourselves. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing who here will be back in the fall, because you guys know I am. And also thank you to Speaker and Associate Speaker for all of their hard work this year, as except for Friday, this is their last time coordinating a Senate meeting. So, oh God, I'm tearing up. No, but how about a round of applause for our Speaker and Associate Speaker for all their work this year?
Vice President Nalivo? Okay, well, this is my last report of the year, so I probably should say something. So, all right, let's just get into it. There's just a couple people I want to thank. Urja, thank you, and thank you to your committee as well, AA, for putting up these last few weeks of hectic bylaw planning and having to schedule meetings all over the place. I really appreciate you guys. And thank you for being a good friend. And I will pay you back for that royal chicken. So, Cass, I really haven't met someone with your passion for student advocacy and the amount of work that you put into this organization. Your number of accomplishments is almost matched by the number of funny nicknames that me and certain other people have come up with. But really, you've driven our leadership team a lot. So thank you. Morgan, congratulations, first of all, and second of all, good luck. But seriously, though, I know you'll do great. You've already shown such strong leadership, and I've really always been struck by your desire to engage with others and make them feel welcome. I was also struck by that stick you were swinging around at leadership retreat when we were playing Granny. But I know you're probably sick of working for people named Ishan, so welcome to the top, and you have both of our full confidence and support. Esther, congrats on completing your 3rd year in student government. Actually, for those who don't know, Esther's been in the organization longer than I have, so really it should be her up here. But I just want to say, when I first joined, you were one of the people who helped me feel at home and welcome in the organization, and I can't thank you enough for that. And you're just so cool. So really, you're a person that I looked up to a lot, and it means a lot that you wanted to be on my team. So thank you. Will joined our team with no SGA experience, and with that, he rewrote an entire bylaws title. He restructured an entire process, one of the most fundamental processes that we work on, all with almost no support at all. This guy basically soloed that stuff. It actually blows my mind, dude. You are awesome. Thank you so much for joining our team. I don't know. I'm like gushing, but I can't think of the words, dude. Thank you so much for your work this year. Darren, I mean, you just got a whole medal from the entire Senate. You got a standing ovation. I don't even know if there's anything I can say. You've been a really great friend this year as well. I'm really going to miss the long hours we've spent in the office hanging out. Wherever I end up, I'm going to miss seeing a guy come around the corner. I'll be like, what? And he'll be like, oh, I'm just coming to say hi. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. JD, you've been a great help this year. Thank you so much. Thank you especially for putting up with my terrible record at making purchase requests. I know I messed up the last one too, so that's my bad. So thank you for sticking by me through. Yeah, really. Mike, thank you for a good year in Core 4. We really did thug it out, dude. It was a tough year for sure. It had its highs and its lows, but we stuck it out throughout. We kept up a good relationship. We mostly kept the SGA together, so I can't really ask for anything more than that. And congrats on your second term. I know you're going to do great stuff. But there is one person I need to thank most out of everyone, Cody. It feels like only yesterday you were asking to run alongside me. And since then, I never really thought about reaching this point. I was so wrapped up in like the election and then transition stuff. And then by the time fall came around, we were just in it. So I never really thought about reaching this moment. But now that I'm here, I realized that I couldn't have made it here with anyone else. When you first asked me that you wanted to run for associate speaker, I thought like, this guy? Okay, sure, great. That's fine. I thought you'd make a fine coworker and we'd just sort of trudge through the year. But I really underestimated you, dude. You've grown into a super capable leader, someone who leads with reason and compassion. I know the people in this organization really look up to you. Honestly, even I look up to you. You're the kind of person that any person would be lucky to follow as a leader. You've been someone who I'll always trust, someone who I'm always ready to confide in or consult for hard decisions. I was trying to think of times that I could like bring up specifically in the speech, and it kind of made me realize like, damn, dude, we were just together the whole year. There wasn't a time when you weren't there for me, and I really appreciate it, especially through the roughest parts of the year. You were always my support. I'll miss hearing your stories about how bad Super Smash Bros. Tournaments smell, or coming to your dorm to borrow a tie or steal your clothes steamer. And even the hours we spent in the office will be my fondest memories of UMass. Not always because of the work that we were doing, but always because of who I was doing that work with. I wasn't always the best leader this year, but you consistently kept me honest, and you took on a lot of responsibility on my behalf when I needed it. And above everything, you stuck by my side, and I'll always be grateful to you for that. So thank you. All right, sorry for the yap. One for you guys, the Senate. Thank you all for a great year and for putting up with me and all the bylaws that have come through, all the debates and the presentations that come by every Wednesday. It's truly admirable that you all take time out of your evening to be present for your constituents here. Student government is a great privilege and a great burden. Meetings can drag on. We don't always see eye to eye with one another. And sometimes change can seem impossible. Tasks can seem insurmountable. And after all, we're only students, right? But especially here at UMass, we have the special gift of formal power sharing with the administrators. We get to meet them face to face and put student issues in front of their eyes where they can't look away from them. We don't decide every policy. We don't get to build new dorms. But does that mean that our advocacy doesn't matter? Does it mean that we can't get rid of iClickers, provide Plan B and menstrual products to students, open a food pantry, make it easier for students to organize groups where they can express their interests? I don't think so. So that begs the question that everyone must ask themselves. What is student governance to you? Is it just 3 hours on a Wednesday? Is it just a roll call attendance sheet? Or is it something more, something larger than any one of us? And so my last order to all of you as speaker is this: stay involved, stay informed. The power balance between students and administrators will always swing from one side to another. But as long as we keep pushing and stay advocating, our power can never be taken from us. Thank you. All right. Come on, it's 9 o'clock. Associate Speaker.
I would like to start by thanking everyone in the chamber tonight for making this such a wonderful year. This year has not been an easy one for many, but we got through it and we certainly have a lot to be proud of. Whether you have something of yours to point to and say, I did that, or if you have something that you worked on with others, I hope that you are proud of your work and the work of this body. This year has been a transformative one for the SGA, and I am proud of all of you and our work as a Senate. This is not to say that our work has been perfect. We all make mistakes, and I know that I've made my fair share, but it shows character that when mistakes are made, we keep pushing, keep trying to do better, keep persevering, and I thank you all for that effort. To Mike and Gianna, I want to thank you for a good year. This year has been a challenging one right from the start, but you never wavered and you stuck by Sean and I am forever grateful. To the chairs, I owe my life. You guys have kept the SGA afloat and running through whatever was thrown your way, and you did it all with dignity and grace for the most part. Without you, we would not have a functioning Senate, and we would certainly all be lost. To JD, your steady guidance has kept me sane when it feels like the world is burning, and you've always proven yourself to be a source of sound advice. And to Ishan, words cannot describe how grateful I am that I could serve alongside you in this role. Before running for these roles, I had barely known you and thought you were just some guy who looked so effortlessly cool. But now, having come to know you, I've learned that you are so incredibly smart, kind, and easily one of the funniest people I've ever met. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to serve as your associate speaker, and I'm so very privileged to call you my friend. So thank you all for this year, and don't be strangers.
Well, I guess the Chief Justice already gave her report. RHA President, last chance. Are there any RSO Council Presidents present? Does anyone from the Cabinet wish to use their time? Chief of Staff Martin, you're recognized.
Hi, everyone. Just to start, I want to say this was my first year actually attending Senate meetings. I've been in SGA since sophomore year, but this is the only year that I had more involvement. And I just want to say that being in the room and listening to the work that all of you do, especially the chairs of all the Senate committees, I am so, so impressed with how much you've dedicated to this organization. And I think that everyone should get the privilege of listening to all the hard work that you guys have put into this organization. I'm so, so impressed. And it's been an honor to serve in a more official setting. And thank you so much to Michael for giving me this opportunity. Good luck next year. You're going to do great. And I can't wait to read about it in a Collegian article. And just for report on me, I've just been wrangling people for their bikes for the past week and will do so for the next week and a half, trying to get those into Maple. So if you know someone with the bike, let me know. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be around for a couple more weeks. And it has been such an honor, and I'm so proud of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Haley, for your work this year. Any other cabinet secretaries? All right. Any faculty senate representatives? Chair Mello.
A brief update on Academic Matters Council. There was a new AI concentration made today in computer science. I think that'll be available starting in the fall. So if anyone's interested in AI on campus, that's definitely something to be aware of. There may also be an AI major in the future, so please stay tuned. For other updates, I'll send out emails if people are interested. So thank you.
Thank you. Chair Kim, go ahead.
Keeping this really quick, yesterday Svirsky and I went to Saul. We just kind of wrapped up the year, talked about the final proposition or final recommendation from the faculty senate for micromobility policy. Any questions? You know where to find us. Svirsky, anything else?
Any other faculty senate representatives? All right. Any ESO event representatives may be recognized. Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
This is actually a faculty senate report from the Status of Diversity Council. And so pretty much their focus is, to be vigilant especially with the Supreme Court's recent decision regarding like voting power. And so just trying to be mindful of, the administration that we have in office and then how to, be proactive and not reactive. And then there was something going on with Amherst where there was like a hate letter. And so just being very proactive going forward is the goal of the Status of Diversity Council.
Any other faculty senate representatives? Any ESO event representatives may be recognized? Any SAB representatives may be recognized. Chair Trong, go ahead.
Yeah, so briefly, President Borowski, myself, and Senator Wu, along with Treasurer Jemaya, we were at the Recwell Advisory Board today, and we passed amendments to the Recwell MOU on admin and on the SGA side, so there's a lot more clarification. So.
Are there any other SAB representatives? There was one thing, last week I talked about athletics SAB, but I have my more detailed notes now. I believe this information is going to the faculty senate tomorrow, so it should still be pretty relevant. But in terms of the sports teams, their total revenue was, this is just for football. Their revenue for FY26 was 13.97 million. Their expenses were 13.96 million. Out of those expenses, the biggest was $6 million for scholarships and then 3.97 million for compensation. They also provide for football related expenses, which are summer and winter aid, debt service, facility operation, personnel transition, and also additional female scholarships, which I don't know what that is, but that is an addition. That's a related expense and not under scholarships for some reason. The related expenses total up to 7.09 million. And the football team's expenses were higher compared to normal years because of moving conferences and because they're onboarding new football staff. Was there anyone else on an SAB? Chair Kim? Oh, yeah, sure.
The last bit you said about like onboarding additional football staff, is that related to like the athletics director potentially? Was that like part of the higher cost this year, do you know?
No, not for the football budget specifically. That's more just like training staff and like coaching staff specifically for the football team. They had figures for just general UMass sports. Their total revenue in sports was $52,556,451. Their expenses were $55,367,205 million. Again, a lot of different teams are shifting conferences, which comes with associated costs, which contributed to that expense. And then again, the football team had a higher than usual expense for this year. Yeah, Chair Hood.
Did they explain what revenue counts as here? Does that include like funds from the school? Is that ticket sales? Specific, like what is that? What is revenue here?
Revenue was ticket sales, TV and radio royalties, UMAA Foundation endowment, and sports fundraising / Script U scholarship. Senator Golu.
While we're talking about this, I will meet Ryan Banford tomorrow. So any questions, please let me know. I already got a lot of things to ask him, but just anything that you guys have, let me know.
Thank you. Are you meeting with him before 3:30 or after?
Before.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Was there anyone else for an SAB? All right. Chairs, any reports? Chair Trong, go ahead.
Yeah, first off, I want to thank Ishan and Cody for giving me the privilege to have the responsibility as chair of the Ways and Means Committee. Going into this position, I knew it was going, to be a bit of work, but I think I underestimated just how much work it would entail. And it means a lot that you guys were both there for me and to support me. For Cass, thank you so much, for all those late night calls. And Urja and Will, thank you guys so much for being supportive. I also really want to thank the former chair, Maya Stamen, who gave me a lot, and she mentioned me very well. And as well as Jill and Leo and Rue for really being there for me and for that support network. All those late night hours, all those times in Senate, crunching numbers for the SGA budget. It means a lot to have that support, And I'd lastly like to, thank Kandai, who really inspired me to carry out the work that I do.
Thank you. Does any other chair wish to make a report? Chair Mello, go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, AO is going to have an event this weekend on Saturday for Reading Day. And we're just going to be studying in the office like all day. So if you guys want to hang out with us, get some stuff done, it'll be pretty fun. So please show up, SGA office all day Saturday. Yay.
Any questions? All right. Chair Hood, go ahead.
Just want to say, look at Cass Mello working so hard and her senators. That's a day after her term ends, actually. Still working, which is crazy. For my report out, I just want to say the CAP process finally got finished last Tuesday. We finally got the last 6 RSOs through. So no one actually ended up getting suspended for the summer, which I was scared might actually happen. But success on that front. So thank you, UROC senators, for dealing with that and working so hard. I appreciate that. And then since I don't want to do too many speeches and thank yous, but I do want to say, Ishan and Cody, thank you for believing in me. You guys didn't know me. I don't really know how I ended up with this job, but I'm glad I did. It really did actually change my life. And I'm happy that I wasn't a disappointment to you guys. So yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into, but it turned out great. And I do love this organization and I hope to be involved more. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Chair Dami.
I also want to keep this quick because I know it's a little past 9, but thank you to Ishan and Cody. You guys have been such great bosses. You guys have been such great friends. I really don't know what I would do without you guys in the office. Just walking into your office and kind of just, letting out all of my day's problems or anything on you guys. You guys were always there for me, so I really thank you for that. Ishan, you're going to do really good things when you leave UMass, even though you're leaving. It's really sad, but you're going to do great things. And then also all my fellow chairs and my committee, you guys have been great. You guys have put up with me so much. I know I've made a couple of mistakes, and it's been hectic, especially AA. I know that the scheduling's been hectic and just getting all of those things done on time and just making sure that we were following processes at the same time. It was just a lot. Thank you for always being there, and thank you for always trying to communicate with me as much as possible. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. Do any other chairs wish to make a report? Chair Onyeka.
Hey guys, quickly, there's an event happening this Saturday. It's a cultural send-off. It's for anybody who to come, but it's also to recognize the work of the cultural orgs throughout the year. There'll be food, games, prizes, DJs, lots of great things. It's from 2 to 5:30 at the Black Presence Space, which is right under Burke. But I also want to say thank y'all for a great year. I've been doing this role specifically for 2 years, so it's bittersweet to come to an end. But I'm very excited for Alex to take on this role, and also for whatever work I end up doing later in the student body and just in general. But I am really excited to see what you guys do next year. And thank y'all for being so cool and sweet and welcoming.
Thank you. Any other chair reports? All right. JD, anything?
All right, I promise I'll be pretty quick. All right, so as I close out my first full year in this role, I just want to take a moment and reflect briefly on all that you guys have accomplished, because I think if we're honest, we know that this year was not necessarily an easy one for our campus. We experienced the passing of one of our beloved committee chairs. We dealt with the massive Olympia fire that displaced hundreds of members of our community. And we recently experienced the horrifying loss of a UMass employee in an act of domestic violence. Those moments were heavy, and they reminded us very quickly that universities are not just institutions, they're communities made up of real people navigating very real pain. But I also think those moments showed us something important about SGA and about UMass more broadly. When difficult things happened, you stepped up. You checked on each other. You worked together. And despite all of the disagreements and chaos that naturally come in student government, you all showed resilience and care for the campus community. On the operational side, I honestly cannot overstate how much was accomplished this year. Funding reform and registry reform are not glamorous topics, but this work mattered immensely. When I got here, as I mentioned earlier, and as a lot of you know firsthand, the system was quite frankly broken. We were staring at major financial problems, agencies were mad, RSOs were mad, and a huge amount of institutional energy was being spent just trying to keep the ship afloat. You all helped move this organization toward a more sustainable, accountable, and functional model. That may not always be flashy work, but it is meaningful work. It protects opportunities for students. It protects club sports, conference travel, cultural programming, major events, advocacy work, and all of the things that actually shape student life and experiences here at UMass that people will remember for the rest of their lives. You are stewards of millions of dollars in student resources, and I think sometimes people lose sight of how significant of a responsibility that really is. Student government matters, shared governance matters, student advocacy matters. The work that you all do has a real impact on this university and on the students who experience this campus every single day, even if they never fully see all the work that you do. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, your patience, and your willingness to care about UMass and about each other. And before I go, special thank you to you two. I won't go into because I think everything was said already, but the one thing that was not said was how flawlessly you guys run these meetings. It is not easy to stand up here for multiple hours and follow Robert's rules over and over again, not to mention the roll call, which has got to be one of the more difficult roll calls I've ever heard. It's fantastic. So thank you to you both. It's been a pleasure working with you, and can't wait to see what you do next.
Are there any motions on the floor except a motion to adjourn? All right. Seeing none, the associate speaker will record the ending roll call.
Senator Ashrafi. Senator Ashrafi, present. Senator Baker. Senator Baker, absent. Senator Belair. Senator Belair, present. Senator Breen. Senator Breen, present. Senator Calvo. Senator Calvo, present. Senator Durigi. Durigi, present. Chair Dami. Chair Dami, present. Senator Dang. Senator Dang, present. Senator Faciso. Senator Faciso, absent. Senator Haycock. Senator Haycock, present. Senator Edicule Espinal. Senator Edicule Espinal, absent. Senator Hirondani. Senator Hirondani, present. Chair Hood. Chair Hood, present. Senator Huang. Senator Huang, present. Senator Kanan. Senator Kanan, present. Senator Keel. Senator Keel, present. Chair Kim. Chair Kim, present. Senator Coheisen. Senator Coheisen, present. Senator Mari. Senator Mari, absent. Chair Mello. Chair Mello, present. Senator Morales-Kino. Chair Morales-Kino, present. Senator Nalivo. Senator Nalivo, absent. Senator Ng. Senator Ng, present. Chair Nguyen. Chair Nguyen, absent. Chair Onyeka. Chair Onyeka, present. Senator Rai Patel. Senator Rai Patel, present. Senator Reeb. Senator Reeb, present. Senator Rogers. Senator Rogers, present. Senator Saini. Senator Saini, present. Senator Schuette. Senator Schuette, present. Senator Siegel. Senator Siegel, absent. Senator Sun. Senator Sun, present. Chair Swirsky. Chair Swirsky, present. Senator Taki. Senator Taki, absent. Senator Tajwani. Senator Tajwani, present. Senator Tick. Senator Tick absent. Senator Torngrip. Senator Torngrip present. Chair Trong. Chair Trong present. Senator Valatka. Senator Valatka absent. Senator Valencia Gallego. Senator Valencia Gallego present. Senator Vender Wilson. Senator Vender Wilson present. Senator Walker Hoover. Senator Walker Hoover present. Senator Wu. Senator Wu present. Senator Golu. Senator Golu present.
Again, if you want to be a co-sponsor on the resolution to award Darren the Medal of Honor, please come to the podium. All right, who wants the last one? Who wants it? Senator Valencia Gallego. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. All right, the ayes have it and the meeting is adjourned. We have our Zoom meeting on Friday. We're not anticipating any business, but please just log in. Other than that, good luck with finals. And again, if you want to be on the Medal of Honor,